Hello my fellow book addicts, Flanagan here, and time for another book review. Today I'm going to be talking about The Ruins of Gorlan by John Flanagan, and this is book 1 in the Ranger's Apprentice series. So this series I actually read for the first time years ago. Like, holy crap, I think it's been almost 10 years? Yeah, I was 15 when I read this, and I'm 24 now. So it's been almost 10 years since I picked this book up for the first time. And oh my god, I loved this series then, and even though I'm only 2 books in, I still love this series now. So I'm not sure if some of this love is just nostalgia factor, but either way, I love this series. I can't remember what this book is classified as. Really, I would classify it as a middle grade read, I think. Or maybe somewhere between middle grade and young adult, I'm not sure. But our main character's name is Will, and he is an orphan. And in his little kingdom, a lot of orphans, especially if their parents died in service for the fief or kingdom, the Baron of the fief would take them in to the castle and kind of help raise them, give them an education, and, help them get a job and become an apprentice to someone on their 15th birthday. So Will is one of these people. He was orphaned as an infant, a newborn practically, and no one knows who his parents are. Basically, he was left on the steps of the castle as a baby with a note saying that his father died a hero and the boy's name is Will. And he has a few other age mates who were orphans as well. Some of them knew their parents, some not so much. And his age mates are Jenny, George, Horse, I think it's pronounced, and Alice. Horse and Alice is just how I've been pronouncing it since I've read the book. I could be wrong, and even if I am wrong, these ways of pronunciation are so deeply ingrained into my head that I don't think I'll be able to change it. But I'll look into it later and try. And they're all 15 now, so they are going to be choosing who they wish to be apprenticed to, and if these craft masters want them, they'll find out. Will is beyond nervous. He wants to be a knight. He is convinced that his father was a knight because he died a hero, and in Will's 15-year-old mind, heroes are knights. So he really, really wants to get into battle school to learn how to fight and be a knight and be a hero like his father. Only issue with that is he's a tiny little kid, so he's worried that the odds are not in his favor. And Horse, being kind of a jerk, is not helping his fears any. Because Horse wants to get into battle school too. So the day of this choosing ceremony, Will is beyond nervous because this choice will affect the rest of his life. He'll be an apprentice for 5 or so years before, being officially part of the craft. That, and supposedly if, it's rare, but if a craft master does not accept any wards, or won't accept a specific ward because one reason or another, they're usually sent out to farms to help, provide food for the fief. It's not the most common of situations, because everyone tries to, make the wards apprentices somewhere. But, it does happen from time to time, and Will is terrified of that happening to him. So, all the other kids go before him. Alice wants to become a diplomat, and she's more or less a sure-in. Horse is pretty quickly accepted into battle school. George wants to be a scribe, so he becomes a scribe master. He goes to scribe school. And Jenny wants to be a cook, so she's more or less quickly accepted by the cook, leaving poor Will. He says he wants to go into battle school, and the battle master is just like, he's too tiny, unfortunately. Will tries to defend himself, being like, I haven't had my growing spurt yet, sir. His next choice is, if he can't become a knight, maybe he can train the horses the knights ride into battle. Not the best of jobs, but it's something. And unfortunately, the horse master is like, no, sorry. And basically, no one wants Will. And at this point, he is panicking because he doesn't want to be sent off to work on a farm. It's just not the life that he wants for himself. And the poor Baron, who is a really cool guy. I like the Baron. He actually seems like a good, leader. And he has a sense of humor, which is, a plus. And he feels bad for Will. He's trying to help him out, because if he can avoid it, he'd rather not send these poor kids off to, be a farmer. But something happens. Halt, who is what's called a ranger. Rangers are these figures that are shrouded by mystery for the people of not just this fief, but the whole kingdom. He shows the Baron this note regarding Will's future, which makes Will panic and makes him beyond curious. So the Baron's like, okay, well, we'll decide what we're going to do with you tomorrow. And they leave it at that. That night, Will actually sneaks out of the ward, climbs up to the Baron's office. Sneakily, the guards don't see him, no one sees him, supposedly. And he breaks into the Baron's office to read the note that Halt gave the Baron. He is caught, of course, by Halt. Halt saw exactly what he was doing. And he calls the Baron in, and the Baron responds, "Oh, well, you were right, Halt." And, they're jabbering away, and Will is just like, what? What's going on? What? Am I in trouble? Am I gonna be banished? And they show Will the note. Basically saying that Halt wants to take Will on as his apprentice. So Will is kind of confused, because he doesn't know exactly what Rangers do. All he knows is a lot of people are afraid of them, and they're pretty mysterious, and that Halt is kind of grumpy, silent, and a little intimidating. And the Baron explains that the Rangers, they are a pretty tight-knit group, and they have a very important job. They keep an eye on the kingdom's enemies, they scout the kingdom, and basically their job is to know things. They know the terrain of the kingdom extremely well, they're good at tracking, and they are kick-butt warriors in their own right. It may not be battle school, but it's an important job nonetheless. And Will is kind of wary, but he doesn't want to be sent to a farm to be a farmhand, so he, goes along with this being Halt's apprentice. And just the whole relationship between Halt and Will is fabulous. I love it. Halt is just so grouchy and just his whole personality is fun to read, and it's fun to see him mesh with Will. Will is like his total opposite. Will talks a lot. Will is very curious, which is a very important skill for a ranger, to ask questions. So Halt takes Will on as his apprentice, and I think the Rangers are extremely cool. And basically we're getting the first big exposure to Will's training as an apprentice of a ranger, and quite a few things happen along the way for him to really cement himself, make a name for himself, and he does quite a lot for a 15-year-old apprentice. And we also get to see some of Horse's situation. We see a lot of what Horse has to go through in his battle school training. Things aren't going as smoothly as he thought. He has to deal with some bullying by some of the older apprentices, and I feel bad for the guy. Like, he was a jerk to Will, but I do feel for him. But I'm not going to get too much into that, because that kind of gives a few spoilers. That's it for my synopsis. I absolutely loved this. So yeah, I highly recommend this book, and if you do not want to be spoiled, I suggest you click away now and, come back after you read it. I love how Will and Horse manage to push aside their differences, push aside their history, and they do become friends. Because really, they've more or less saved each other's lives during this boar hunt that went on, and Halt actually is amazing too. He managed to help Horse deal with some of the bullies that he was putting up with at battle school, and the poor kid thought that all this hazing that he had to go through, specifically him, was normal, so he didn't want to tell anyone, and this was affecting his grades, and if things kept going the way they were, he was going to be kicked out of battle school. Which is horrible, because where does he have to go? He is an orphan. He has nowhere to go. But with Halt's help, Horse managed to show those bullies who's boss, and Halt informs the battle school of the situation, and it's taken care of. Which is great, because Horse, he apparently is a natural at sword work, which is super rare, and the Battle Master is intrigued by this, and he thinks that horse has a lot of potential, and it'd be kind of sad to, see that potential go to waste if you had to kick him out. So throughout the kingdom, throughout Will's first few months of training, there have been some mysterious deaths of important people throughout the kingdom. It's splattered here and there. We just hear word of it. And we don't really find out or get an idea what's happening until Halt takes Will to this Rangers gathering where the apprentices are tested to see what, they've learned and what they're really made of. There, we actually meet Halt's former apprentice, Gillen. I believe it's pronounced Gillen. His former apprentice, we meet him, and he is awesome. I love his happy personality and how cheery he is. And I love, how he's trying to get one over Halt, but it doesn't work out. And I love Gillen's introduction. It was great. So there we find out this exiled baron, I believe it was. I have to look at the name or else I'm not going to say it right. Moragarath, who's been at the very edge of the kingdom in these really, really hard to get to mountains. He is stirring and causing trouble with these really creepy creatures called wargles. This guy is the stuff of nightmares. He tried to basically mess with the kingdom 15 years ago before he was exiled, and a big part of his downfall was Halt. And it's actually pointed out that a lot of the random deaths that have been happening have been people who helped in his downfall. So there's words that these other creatures that this exiled baron use are on the loose. The Kalkara, I think it's pronounced. There are a lot of things I can't pronounce here because reasons. And these things are terrifying. There's only 2 left as far as everyone knows. And you don't want to mess with them. They are really, really hard to kill. So Will, Halt, and Gillen are going off to try and gather some information on what's up. Unfortunately, this is all a trap to kill Halt. And despite the fact that I read this book before, I was still on edge as I was reading it. And I love how Will's fast thinking managed to defeat the Kalkara, or help defeat the Kalkara. Or the last Kalkara, I should say. So he managed to save his teacher. And it warmed my heart to see, how Halt became almost like an adoptive father to Will. And at the very end, Baron holds this big ceremony to basically honor Will for saving his life. And the Baron even says, you have shown that you truly have the bravery of a knight. If you still want to, we will allow you to become part of the battle school. And the Battle Master agrees. Will does have what it takes to be a knight, even though he's not this big, strong, hulking guy. But Will, at this point, is torn. Because being a knight is something that he's always wanted since he was a little boy. He feels he'd be letting down his father by not becoming a knight. But at the same time, he's really grown attached to Halt. He's the father he never had. And he really likes what the Rangers do now that he really knows what they're doing. He likes training to be a Ranger. He likes what he gets to do. And he doesn't want to give that up. So he politely turns down the offer. And we find out that Halt actually knew Will's father. Knew being a very loose term. Apparently, 15 years ago, Will's father was a sergeant at arms, I believe. And they were attacked by wargles, and Halt was with them. Halt had fallen somehow, he was unarmed, and he was pretty much sure to die. But Will's father, who never held a sword in his life, grabs a sword, rushes, stands over Halt, and fights off the wargles. He fights off this party of wargles single-handedly. According to Halt, he has never seen the wargles fear a man before, but he swears he saw fear in their eyes that day. And because of his injuries, Will's father was dying, and he told Holt he has a wife who's pregnant, who's due any time, and his dying wish is for Holt to check. During this whole confession that Holt was giving to Will, I was getting teary. This is really pulling at my heartstrings. So Holt, being the guy he is, actually does go to check up on this guy's wife. He is late. The child has already been born, that child being Will, and his mother unfortunately died giving birth, I believe it was, or soon after the birth of Will. So Holt, is stuck with this poor little baby boy who is now orphaned. So he does the one logical thing he can think of doing. He brings the child to the Baron, and instead of, dropping the child off personally, because, Will wouldn't get a normal childhood if it was known that a ranger brought him to the castle. So he left a note and just left the kid there. And Will is kind of a little disappointed to find out that his father isn't a knight, but at the same time, he does know now. And, he's had someone looking out for him his whole life. So just, my heart. My heart. I love this book. I have no words other than I love this series, and I highly, highly recommend it to anyone. It's an easy read, it's a quick read, but it's good. So yeah, that is it for this book review, and I hope to see you guys next time. Keep on reading, my fellow book addicts. Keep on reading.